myself to make it as brief as possible. This is to the group. If elected, what would be your priorities or goals? This may be redundant for some of you, but not all of you. If elected, what would be your priorities or goals for the township during your term in office? We'll start down at John. Work this way.
How brief is brief?
Again?
How brief is brief?
Yeah, I noticed that you and Tim were the longest.
Give him the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a measuring compass.
I think the priority is, for my purpose, would be to try to get this township back together again somehow. I would propose that, from what I see, in all likelihood, the millage may fail in Silver Creek Township. And we're bound by what goes on around us as well. If that's true, I want to maintain and make sure that the ambulance service remains here in Keeler Township. To that end, I would propose that we purchase some land, and the land can be purchased at the little mini golf course. We can put up a building there to house an ambulance service. Not only that, but we're in for the long haul with the CIA and also our triathlon. I think it would serve as a facility for those two entities as well. It would serve as a place where the Sister Lakes folks would be able to meet with, in support of those organizations. And I would also propose that that building be staffed on Saturdays in the morning by the township supervisor and the zoning administrator, so that we get some government down here in Sister Lakes so that we're visible to the people. Keeler Township is served by Keeler right now. That's the geographical center of Keeler Township. But for all practical intent and purposes, the population center is here in Sister Lakes. I think it's important that government be located here so that people have access to us on weekends, because a lot of the folks come up here from out of town and they have no way to communicate presently with the Keeler Township Board in Keeler. That would be my proposal.
My priority for the township is pretty similar to Mr. Blackman's. Open up the lines of communication a little bit better with all the township residents. My goal is to be up at the township hall on set hours, and including Saturdays. And to start a website so that the out-of-towners and those people that are not eligible or not able to come to the township meetings, whether it's zoning board of appeals, planning commission, or the regular township meeting, to read those
They didn't use it for
online
years.
so that they are available to everybody. The second priority is to maintain the fiscal responsibility that the past board has implemented. They've been very good about saving money. This year they've purchased a fire truck for Keeler Township with cash. Not many departments in the area or townships in the area can say they do that, and I would like to maintain that. Thank you.
Because of the recall that started all of this into motion, I think it's very important that that be focused on pretty heavily. So, I've listened to the other candidates who have done their own investigations into the ambulance services. They went to the top of the ambulance services where they talked to the administrators who are going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to make their organizations look the best they can. So I did something different. I went to the emergency rooms. I went to the police officers. I went to the other fire departments. I went to a funeral home because I heard there were some problems there because of this ambulance service. And I've got to tell you, I don't want that ambulance service. I want Sister Lakes back or another ambulance service. But I don't want that ambulance service. I heard too many stories that did not turn into stories, they came out to be the truth. And because of that, I don't want them coming to my house. I don't want my family's lives, my grandchildren that I talked about earlier, I don't want them dependent on that ambulance service. That would be one of my top priorities. Priority number 2, it seems that the township board was not available for the people when they call. They leave messages on answering services, they'd never be recontacted. I would either have 2 or 3 days a week in an office at the township hall where one of the board members was in that office to take responses from the public. I think the public has that right to have somebody to talk to about problems that are going on in the township, and they shouldn't have to wait 2 or 3 weeks down the line to get a phone call back, or maybe never get a phone call back in reference to the problem that they're having. And I can promise you this, I'm not going to sit up here and give you a bunch of promises, but I can promise you this. My goal is to be open-minded, to listen to everything the citizens are telling me, and to act after I've talked to the citizens. I'm not going to make a decision without your input. I believe in the majority in certain instances, and I will talk to you and listen to you before any action is taken. Thanks for listening to me.
All right, I think I've calmed down a little bit, so sorry if my voice went all over the place earlier. I had wrote myself a couple notes here. Obviously, what started this whole thing off was the ambulance service. I personally want Sister Lakes ambulance service back for my 2 little kids and my wife, and I live here in Sister Lakes. But in listening to what everybody's told me, and phone calls, out in person, whatever, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than the ambulance now. The issue is that the ambulance issue allowed it to ignite the community. There's been a pent-up anger here because the previous board, and some of the members of the current board failed to listen to what we wanted. They didn't talk to us. There was no point in going to a meeting. The decisions were made. It was all done. So, my first goal, if you decide to make me your supervisor, I think it's arrogant for myself to think at this point I can decide what's best for you as far as this ambulance service goes. But I don't think that's right. My first agenda will bring this up to a vote of the community of Keeler Township. It's your ambulance service. You guys should decide at this point. I think it's arrogant for any of us at this point to say, I'm going to get this ambulance service and then that ambulance service. We all have been pretty emotional about this, one way or the other. So that's my first thing. My second thing would bring transparency toward township board. When I've been out in the community and I've talked to some farmers, and quite a few of them have said to me that they have no idea what's going on in this board. It's a great point. They don't have the internet, they don't like the internet, and that's fine by me. So my second thing is transparent government. We will publish the meeting notes in all the local papers after every meeting for everybody to read. On top of that, we'll establish online, you can pull it offline anytime you want. I mean, if any of you guys ever try to look at the Keeler Township website, it's a little dated. So we're going to update that and make sure there's an open line of communication. All the members of the board will be available to you at any time. So we need to get blackberries, whatever it is, you need to be able to speak to your representative government. And lastly, and this kind of piggybacks off my last thing, is respect. The new members of the board, whoever you choose, and the current members of the board, they need to show a little respect to the members of our community. I don't know how many of you have heard the stories of people going in and just asking simple questions and having their head ripped off by a member of the board. It's disrespectful, and if you guys decide to make me the township supervisor, I will run these meetings professionally, by the book, Robert's rules, and people will be heard. Nobody deserves to be treated like that by an elected official, period. So those are my three things. I will bring the ambulance up to a popular vote. We'll put it on a ballot immediately as soon as we can. I will build a transparent government. And third, we're going to have a respectful government to the people in this community. So that's what I say. Thank you.
I guess my agenda, I don't really have an agenda when I get in there, if I get in there. I just don't want to be the good old boy club. I think it's time for that to go. It's been in there too long. I think we need to listen to the residents. We have a lot of potential here, and we need to use that. I also agree with him, the website's outdated. The minutes is a good idea. Unfortunately, we don't always get the minutes. However, it's remembered. It needs to be recorded at every meeting, not just remembered, how I remembered it. I've gotten that several times, asking for copies of the minutes. Needs to be recorded like Silver Creek, so we can get the real minutes. And I want to work with the whoever gets put in there. I just think it's time for a change, different ideas. Everybody's got their own opinions. Everybody's got their own ideas. It's time for new ones.
I think it's been shared already from up here. One of the top goals is to bring our community back together. I think there's a lot of anger out there just going to different township meetings, and there's no question and answer. There's an undercurrent anger definitely out there. And so I think that whatever that looks like, that's number one, is to try and bring some healing to our community. Obviously, the first thing that we would have to look at is our ambulance situation. And the more and more I dig into things and how to do that, I don't know that we can actually put a vote just to the people, just what is your opinion. It may have to be tied to a millage or a special assessment in order to bring it to a vote. That would be something that I would have to dig into a little bit further. That's my understanding. You can't just vote on different issues. But I would love to see that, because I would love to see what the majority of the people want. Now, I've investigated, I've talked to both sides. I've seen both sides of the ambulance issue, that we have qualified people, we have people serving us that really have a heart to serve people. Otherwise, why would they be our EMTs and our paramedics? The workers there, they're there for a reason. Not everybody can go out there, try and save lives and get into emergency situations. So the heart of our service people, in whichever ambulance it is there for us. I think it now comes to a matter of who's over it, Sister Lake's ambulance or Paloma Pride Care. And so, we definitely need to deal with that issue, number one, and hopefully bring it to the community, and majority will prevail. We're not going to make everybody happy on every decision. It's just not going to happen. But the goal here is to listen to the heart of the people and try and work with the majority and try and come up with win-win situations. So that would be the first thing. And I agree with the other people on the board, communication. I've got written down as part of my goals. Maybe everyone doesn't use the internet, but we have a lot of people who pay taxes, high taxes, in our area who would like to be kept abreast of what's going on. So better internet, our up to the minutes on there, special meetings, special things that we'd be voting on, points of interest, whatever. I think it needs to be on there. And I think there's also a way to, if you give us your email address, that we can automatically send you things, like a notice of a public hearing, a notice of our next township meeting or whatever. I think that can be done automatically. I do it in my business. I don't see why it can't be done other than that. And then just to listen to the heart of the people and deal with each situation as it comes up to the best of my abilities. So those are the two things that I would do first and foremost.
It's already been said, guys. I can't add too much. I do agree with civility, and we absolutely need to take a vote on the ambulance situation. And I think that the board needs to listen to the people more than they have in the past.
Elected or not, my first agenda, my first desire is to make sure that people are informed before they make decisions like this. Officials are elected to make these decisions that take into account the welfare and the fiscal responsibility or the tax responsibility of our voting and the property owners. Right? And Jim mentioned that he'd like to go into a new direction or a different direction. And that's what the current or the prior board did, and look what it got them. They did the homework. They looked at the issue for over 6 years. This is not a surprise decision. There's 26 communities that surround us that have entered into contracts, some for 10 years. Every contract's been renewed. This issue of one service being better than the other, or the stories that Joe was referring to, I don't listen to the stories. I don't. There is too much emotion with this decision or with this issue. But the Medical Control Authority, who oversees the ambulance services for the 3-county area, there's no sanctions, there's no suspensions, there's no issues with either Sister Lakes Ambulance or Pride Care. And this is going back to 2005. So to have decisions based on stories and emotion, my concern is let's get the facts out to the people. And the reality of the situation is it takes about $260,000 to $270,000 at this point in time for Sister Lakes Ambulance to operate. $200,000 of that is tax revenue either from Van Buren County or from Silver Creek. And that figure is only going to go up. It's a reality. If you were to sit down with Frank or sit down to any member of the ambulance service, insurance, expenses, cost of equipment, it's going to go up every year. Our board entered into a contract that guarantees for the next 5 years, and if you look at some of the 10-year contracts of the communities around, guarantee that they will never need tax subsidies. Now, in this era of fiscal responsibility and people already paying too many taxes, that, I think, is the primary issue, and that's going to be my primary goal if elected, is to try to maintain the level that we're being taxed for local services and not lose anything in terms of level of service. How can all these other communities be so ignorant of the fact that, oh, gee, they entered into a contract with a bad service? I don't understand that. I just do not understand it. And so that my job and my initial priority, and this is whether elected or not, I'll continue to spread the message and spread what I believe are the facts behind this case, and not let stories drive this issue and votes to be done by just the general public. That's why you elect us, to do those, to make these decisions. Thanks.
I need a card.
Well, like I said, I have no agenda going into this, as green as you get, but I call myself a transplant. Like I said, I never knew what Keeler was, but I live here now. It's my heart and soul, and I just like to see every single person that lives in Keeler Township get a fair shake, and I would do my best to try and see that happen. Thank you.
Well, everybody's pretty much touched on the basics. The ambulance service is the biggest issue here. Yeah, I agree. There is big issues in the township that a lot of us aren't even aware about. One of the things that really upset me with the whole thing, and I agree, I would rather have Sister Lakes here because they're right here in the community. And the other thing that really upset me with the whole situation is everybody was told that this ambulance service coming into Keeler Township would be free. The 4-letter little word, free. Well, folks, you pay a countywide millage for ambulance, and your $108,000 went to Coloma to be spent somewhere else, not here. You would think that they would want tax dollars to be spent in their own community, not somewhere else. So one of the agendas is I'd like to see that the people would be allowed to make their say on that ambulance service situation and go with the majority and try to bring this township back together. Not much more you can say other than that. This township is split so bad, and I agree with others, there is a lot of anger issues out there, and I think it needs to be squashed and put back together so this becomes a good community again.